This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. The city of Winnipeg is inching closer to searching a landfill north of the city. Its ultimate goal would be to find the remains of 2 women murdered by a suspected serial killer. The city's lining up experts and looking for money for a potential excavation. But as CBC's Bartley Kivas reports, this would not be a police operation.
Morgan Harris and Mercedes Myron, 2 missing women from Long Plain First Nation, are presumed to be somewhere below the surface of Prairie Green landfill in the arm of Rosser. The Winnipeg Police Service have charged this man, Jeremy Skibicki, with first-degree murder in their deaths. But police chose not to excavate the landfill. The police suspect the remains of the women lie beneath thousands of tons of compacted soil and garbage, and wouldn't know where to start looking, even if they had the expertise. Now, the city is contemplating a search that wouldn't be part of a police investigation.
We're discussing, what the next steps might look like and what resources would be necessary to conduct a search. That is meaningful.
The chair of the Winnipeg Police Board says the goal is humanitarian. He says the city has to manage expectations of the victims' families and the Indigenous community. But the city is talking to companies with the expertise to manage a forensic excavation.
We're also going to consult with industry experts, whether it's forensic anthropologists, whether it's waste management experts, whether it's excavating experts.
Winnipeg Mayor Scott Gillingham says he asked for help from Mark Miller, the Federal Crown Indigenous Relations Minister.
If there was to be a search of some sort, and I'm not predetermining that, but if there was to be a search in some sort, we would need federal assistance and federal resources to participate in that.
In a statement, Police Chief Danny Smythe says he'll work with whoever Gillingham assigns to search at the landfill. Smythe also said he won't resign, as the families and some Indigenous leaders have demanded. This crime scene expert, who's advised on landfill searches, says Winnipeg police made the right call.
I don't think the police had any other choice.
Ross Gardner also says police need intelligence about where to search.
If it's just a dump and fill, there's no way you're going to find what you're looking for.
That is not dissuading the city. Marcus Chambers says the families of Myron and Harris deserve closure. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Now, some families of other missing and murdered women have gone through painful searches looking for their loved ones. As CBC's Emily Brass explains, they say bringing these women home is a matter of respect.
Sue Caribou often comes to this park to drum and pray for the missing and murdered, including her niece.
It's coming back, all the hurt. All this hurt is coming back.
31-year-old Tanya Niepenak went missing in 2011. Police spent 6 days searching for her at the Brady landfill in 2012, but Niepenak was never found. Her aunt believes the search was mostly for show.
They weren't trying hard enough. I think they wanted the family to just hush and do a little action so the family will be hush for a while if we dig. And they didn't do a good dig.
Caribou fears the families of women believed to be in the Prairie Green landfill are hitting the same roadblocks.
I've been living this all my life. Murdered and no justice, and now missing, no search. Like, where's the justice system for our people? There is no justice for our people.
It's a struggle every single day for so many families.
Bernadette Smith's sister went missing 14 years ago. She says all these years, her family has largely been left to lead the search themselves.
It was devastating for us to not have community come out, and my sister's still out there. We have no answers, and we need to do better.
The NDP MLA is pushing police and the province to do a study on whether a search can be done safely. Police began to suspect back in June the remains of Morgan Harris and Mercedes Myron ended up at Prairie Green, but they decided not to search.
6 months for this family to wait, and for the police to know that these women were in there, that's unacceptable. They've made the job even harder to find these women.
Caribou says there can be no closure until the women are brought home.
Who the hell wants to come up to the dump to visit a loved one? Our loved one don't belong in the trash.
She says she's still praying and looking for her niece every single day. Emily Brass, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The news this week has been a lot to handle. Stories like this one can be very triggering. There are several phone lines you can call if you need emotional support, including 211. There's also Gani Ganichuk on your screen, 204-594-6500. MKO has a helpline as well, 1-800-442-0488. Locally, it's 204-677-1648. A lot of numbers there to remember, so you'll find them listed at the bottom of related stories on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba. We are learning more today about a 27-year-old woman who was found unresponsive in a St. Boniface bus shelter earlier this week. She was found by street outreach workers piled under a pile of blankets. She was under them. That was Monday afternoon. Well, today the CBC's Stephanie Cram spoke with her family.
She was funny. She was hilarious. Like, if you were down and out, she would just put a smile on your face by just looking at you.
That's how Loretta Ray is remembering her niece, Kayla Ray.
That's my niece, but she called me Mom. And I was trying to prevent this from happening.
Ray was found unresponsive under a pile of blankets in a St. Boniface bus shelter Monday afternoon. It was bitterly cold. There was drug paraphernalia nearby. Officials told the family she died of a heart attack.
That puzzles me. Like, I don't know what to think about that and how to think. She was only 27 years old.
Originally from North Spirit Lake First Nation, a small community in northwestern Ontario, Kayla moved to Winnipeg after witnessing a tragic hit and run. She was haunted and turned to drugs, but her family said she had been sober for 2 years.
She wanted to go back home to Ontario, but not like this. Not like this at all.
Ray's mother, Joanne, recently visited Winnipeg. She tried to bring Kayla home.
Like, I couldn't bring her home. Like, I could have brought her home with her siblings, but she needed an ID. She didn't have nothing, and it takes time to get those things.
Her Aunt Loretta hopes her niece's death will spark change, a need for more shelters and supports for drug users.
You know, they're drug users, they're still people, they're still somebody's child, and they shouldn't be treated like animals, like they're human beings.
Loretta Ray says her family has been through a lot. She recently lost another niece to an overdose and hopes the autopsy for Kayla doesn't end the same way. Stephanie Cram, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Families of people who were allegedly abused at Oakview Place are stunned. The suspects in the case are facing much fewer charges than they expected. The care home in Sturgeon Heights told relatives back in June it believed 15 residents had been victims of abuse by 2 healthcare aides. But the Crown has only charged these suspects with 1 count each of assault, connected to just 2 of the residents. Diana Clausen is upset there won't be justice for her 92-year-old father, who has since died.
These 13 people are now inconsequential. They were abused physically, in my father's case sexually and physically. These are the things that the whistleblower reported. So what happened to that eyewitness information?
The home parent company says Extendicare, that's the name of the home parent company. It says the 2 employees involved no longer work for it. Other significant changes have also been made, it says. Provincial and territorial leaders are renewing calls for Ottawa to boost spending on health care. They want the federal government to come to the table to negotiate new deals on funding. But Ottawa is sticking to its demand, seeking guarantees and accountability to give out more federal money. Tom Perry reports.
Across Canada, signs of a healthcare system in crisis. Long waits or even closures at emergency rooms, frustrated patients, and burned out medical staff. Canada's premiers once again today calling on the federal government to step up with more cash.
Now more than ever, Canadians expect their political leaders to get together, for necessary and serious discussions to ensure the sustainability of the healthcare systems that they depend on.
Provincial and territorial leaders renewing their demand for a meeting with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Set a date. We will put aside our whole schedule, all 13 premiers, to show up to Ottawa and sit down and let's hammer out a deal.
But Ottawa, the provinces and territories disagree on some fundamental points. The premiers say the federal government covers just 22% of healthcare spending. Ottawa says that ignores tax point transfers that have been in place for decades and pushed the federal contribution to roughly a third.
The goal is to have a 50-50 funding partner, and with the transfer of tax points and the cash transfers, they believe that they're at 35%. Then it seems to me that we're about 10 to 15 percentage points off.
But the feds say money isn't the only issue.
We look across Canada, on average, provinces and territories are running surpluses. So if it were dollars, it wouldn't be important to talk to the federal government. They would have all the dollars needed to invest in healthcare.
Ottawa also making it clear if there is new federal money, it will come with strings attached.
A plan to send unconditional transfers to finance ministers is not a health plan.
For now, there's no plan for Justin Trudeau to sit down with the premiers and hash out any new deal. Money may not be the only problem facing Canada's healthcare system right now, but this squabble between the federal, provincial, and territorial governments can hardly provide any comfort for Canadians facing long waits for care and healthcare workers who are overworked and exhausted. Tom Perry, CBC News, Ottawa.
Now, speaking about our province, Premier Heather Stefanson says Ottawa doesn't have to worry about how Manitoba is spending its healthcare dollars.
We know, what is needed within our areas, and we are accountable. I know I am accountable certainly every day, and our Minister of Health is every day when we go out and we make changes or we do things in our healthcare system, and that's the way it has to be.
The opposition NDP accused Stefanson of blaming the federal government for problems when Manitoba could be spending more money on healthcare all on its own. Our weather specialist Riley Laychuk joins us now.
Yes.
We have to just move.
I'll just go over here. I'll just go over here.
You just go over there. So Riley, it was quite almost misty out there this afternoon. I went for a drive and it was almost like there was a fog around.
A bit of a misty one. I have some video to show you now. This is from about 4:30 this afternoon, just as rush hour was getting started. And you can see just how damp it looks in there, how misty, how moist it looks out into downtown Winnipeg. Yeah, it was kind of a gray day like that with a lot of this low-level cloud really sticking around. And, we do see some of that right now on satellite radar. You can see that we do have some of this cloud. You can't really see a lot of the precipitation coming out of this, but we have seen a little bit of precipitation through southern Manitoba this afternoon as well as we get into the evening hours here. So as we get into the overnight tonight, we will see our cloud continuing to build in here. I put a stop in early on Saturday morning. You can start to see some of this pink along the international border. More snow out to northwestern Ontario. We do have a risk of freezing rain really across the Red River Valley tonight. So including the city of Winnipeg, even as far west as Portage La Prairie, Morden, Winkler does have that risk of freezing rain tonight. But this is more of a snow event for the Whiteshell and out into northwestern Ontario through the early part of tomorrow morning, even lingering into the afternoon. So driving could be a bit dicey, especially if you're heading east along the Trans-Canada Highway or down toward the U.S. border into Minnesota. So keep that in mind if you have to do any highway traveling through the weekend. Things can be a bit slick as we get out there. I know some of the streets in the city, in fact, this afternoon, a bit slick from this damp weather that we have seen. Heading into Sunday, we do have some more snow moving across northern Manitoba through Saturday and Sunday. This will bring us anywhere between 2 and 5 centimeters of snow. We'll talk amounts on that in just a moment. Potentially some more snow early into Monday. So in terms of snowfall projections for southern Manitoba, 2 to 5 centimeters in that southeast corner. fairly safe bet through the overnight tonight into the morning tomorrow. Bit higher amounts into northwestern Ontario, and I think, the further west you go, the less we're going to see in terms of snow this weekend. In northern Manitoba, it's the northwest that's going to be getting the brunt of the snow this weekend. As you can see, Brochet, Lynn Lake, that 5 to 10 centimeter mark through the weekend into early Monday morning, more like 2 to 5 across the rest of northern Manitoba and along the Hudson Bay coast as we get through the weekend. So we are at -3 right now in Winnipeg. Winds are starting to pick up once again this afternoon out of the southeast. We are seeing snow reported at the airport. A lot of this isn't actually making it to the ground right now. Pressure is falling. It is quite damp out there, and that damp weather will continue this evening. -4, our temperature rises through the evening tonight into the morning tomorrow. Winds gusting up to 50 tonight. Lightening up a bit, -3 when we wake up in the morning, and then into the afternoon tomorrow, -1, some sunny breaks. Winds out of the southeast gusting up to 30 tomorrow. And unfortunately, not a lot of sunshine in our forecast. -3 on Sunday, cloud cover, and then a chance of flurries as we head into Monday and Tuesday. And unfortunately, your 7-day forecast has more cloud cover as well. I'll have those details coming up.
Weather Update is brought to you by Home Equip, your trusted local source for Pride Mobility scooters. From sales to rental and repair, our team is here to serve you.
Siloam Mission here in Winnipeg hosts its first ever Indigenous open house tomorrow. Siloam was called out nearly 2 years ago for not doing enough to support spiritual and cultural care for the Indigenous people it serves. I spoke with the organization's CEO this afternoon. Tessa Blakey-Whitecloud, thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Now, it's only been about a week and a half since Siloam Mission put out its inaugural report to the community. And tomorrow you're hosting an open house, the first ever Indigenous open house. Is it coincidental that these two public events are so close together?
No, not at all. We really wanted to make sure that people could hear that commitment to truth and reconciliation that Siloam is making, bearing some hard truths and how we're planning to move forward. And so the open house is to kind of celebrate how far we've come on that journey and the work that's happened. We have over 35 Indigenous staff who participate in our Indigenous Employee Circle and really feed into what it means to be engaging meaningfully in truth and reconciliation at Siloam and supporting the folks in the community that we're serving. So tomorrow is really about celebrating them and the work that they do and getting to better understand, the change that's happening at Siloam so that we can be the best possible for those we're serving and supporting.
And this is a time, of course, when Winnipeg's Indigenous community is really hurting. Well, it's been a very, very painful week.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's true. So housing is so important on so many levels, and we see people, at increased risk of a multitude of things, including being victims of violence if they're lacking housing. And so a big piece for us in the work that we're doing at Siloam is how we live into the TRC calls to action. We're obviously going to be looking at the missing, murdered Indigenous women's calls to action and how we can build that into our planning as well to make sure that we're meeting everybody where they're at and offering them services where they can come and feel open with us and tell us what's happening, and so we can best support them, whether that's safety planning or basic needs.
What are you hearing from members of the community that you do serve in terms of connection? Do you feel things have improved in the 2 years since Siloam was called on the carpet for not responding sufficiently?
Yeah, things have definitely improved. We're so blessed to have Christine working with us as our Director of Indigenous Relations for the last, half a year. And we're really improving both the access to knowledge keepers and services on site for our team and for the people that are accessing services, our community members. We're also building an Indigenous cultural space inside the drop-in, and that's going to be huge. We're hoping that we can launch that next spring and have that finished. And we've been doing that through community consultations. So we're really in conversation with the folks accessing our spaces. We've been super lucky that tons of Indigenous leaders in our sector have given us their time and their advice. And of course, our Indigenous Advisory Council is huge in terms of offering us guidance and supporting us to better understand how we can take appropriate steps forward. So we're really hearing that this matters to people. We're hearing that they feel, like they're being heard, that they're, maybe still a little bit trepidatious about, believing that things are going to shift, but then they're seeing those shifts.
Who do you hope comes to tomorrow's open house?
tomorrow's open house is open to everybody, and so you can come if you've arranged a tour or not. You can show up and come to the glass doors off of our parking lot. There's going to be amazing Indigenous food. There's going to be live painting by Indigenous artists, including Jackie Travers, Victoria McIntosh, and Grady Funk. So there's ways to kind of connect and see live art happen. It's really about anybody who's curious about Siloam, but we're really also wanting to make sure that folks that are Indigenous that wanted an opportunity to connect at Siloam have an opportunity to do that with Indigenous staff in the lead. And so that's going to be a key part of tomorrow, but it's open to everybody from noon to 4.
Tessa Blakey-White Cloud, thank you for your time today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Remember CBC's YouTube channel, CBC Manitoba on YouTube. Subscribe if you can. There's lots of great stuff there, including some beautiful drone shots of our city. If you ever miss a newscast, you miss Riley's forecast, you can scroll through, watch whenever you want to. National news is coming up after the break. The federal government unveiled a strategy today for what are known as critical minerals. The plan aims to speed up project approvals for raw materials, which will be key to achieving net zero carbon emissions. But as the CBC's Olivia Stefanovich reports, tough challenges lie ahead.
It might sound counterintuitive, but the federal government believes mining is key to unlocking Canada's clean energy potential.
Any plan that does not include thoughtful consideration of how to develop and how to deploy critical clean technologies is not a serious climate plan.
Ottawa is cutting red tape to excavate the materials needed for batteries, solar panels, wind turbines, and electric vehicles more quickly.
It cannot take us 12 to 15 years to open a new mine in this country, not if we want to achieve our climate goals.
The World Bank expects a 500% increase in demand for these elements, lithium, graphite, nickel, and copper by 2050.
We're in trouble. We've got climate change is real. We used to say just a few years ago that the North is feeling it 3 times as anywhere else. We're now saying 4 times.
The Northwest Territories is rich in these critical minerals, but it only has one operating mine. Before it opens any more, it needs new roads and hydroelectricity to replace diesel generators.
Speeding up the regulatory process is only really going to do one thing, and that's going to put Indigenous nations and industry and government at odds.
He says companies need to collaborate with Indigenous communities to seek consent and ensure all environmental concerns are addressed.
It sets off a lot of alarm bells, actually, because we've already gone through several rounds of basically deregulating.
Even with almost $4 billion on the table to speed up approvals, some say it's still unclear whether the money will make a difference without direct investment.
Some of the examples of where these processes have dragged out actually have to do with markets and companies just not being able to find the capital or the justification to build something.
The pressure is on for Canada to become a leader in clean energy technology. Unless it can smooth out its regulatory process, it will remain dependent on other countries. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
Quebec's legislature has passed a law that makes swearing an oath to the king optional for its members. Ironically, it has also received royal assent.
Adopté.
The Legault government had tabled the bill on Tuesday after 3 members of the Parti Québécois, the official opposition, refused to swear the oath and were then barred from sitting. Before this, members were required to swear 2 oaths, one to the people of Quebec, the other to the Crown. Brittany Griner has returned to the United States after almost 10 months in Russian custody. Griner arrived in Texas a day after a prisoner swap with Russia securing her release. She was originally detained in Moscow after cannabis oil was found in her flight luggage. Vladimir Putin was asked today if further swaps might happen. He said anything is possible and that contacts continue. Russia continues to hold this man, Paul Whelan, a former Marine who spent his early years in Canada. Whelan was bypassed in yesterday's deal. What a beautiful shot of Esplanade Riel. CBC weather specialist Riley Lachuk has your Manitoba forecast after the break. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Well, as you've been hearing here on CBC Winnipeg News, delegates from more than 190 countries have been gathered in Montreal for COP15. Canada's hosting the international meeting on protecting our planet's biodiversity. And in Montreal's Old Port area, a group of artists and activists have set up an installation. It's called the Extinction Thermometer. They hope it underscores the seriousness of the issue in a visual form. CBC's Chloe Rinaldi spoke to the organizers before it was put up on display.
All right, so what we have behind me over here is a giant 10-foot tall thermometer. It's got about 20 different skulls, and its goal is to highlight the connection between biodiversity loss and climate change.
Benjamin Von Wong and his team have worked tirelessly on this art installation.
You'll notice over here, life is green and beautiful, and it slowly dies as we rise up to hit the 1.5 degrees Celsius limit that the IPCC report says that we have to try to figure out how to stop.
Embedded in this artwork are keystone animal bones from North America, such as the bison, moose, grizzly, and beaver. They each play a crucial role in their ecosystem.
As the temperature rises, more and more species start passing away until eventually we start seeing humans, because one of the things that we often miss is the connection between the loss of human life and the local ecology.
For 2 weeks, volunteers have worked on this design, sketching out and creating.
This doesn't just affect the animals, doesn't just affect the plants, it affects us. We are all connected.
The goal of this art installation is to get people talking as COP15 is underway.
And what do you hope that people get when they see this, or what do you hope that they learn from it?
I mean, I think people have this natural affinity towards cute, cuddly animals, and so by taking all this charismatic megafauna and showing them in decline, I think it sort of humanizes, or it creates a deeper emotional connection to climate change, which feels very abstract. And then hopefully people don't feel paralyzed by it, but they feel empowered. So saying, regardless if it's about taking photos, creating conversations, getting involved, reaching out to public officials, whatever resonates with them.
This piece will be on display at the Quai Alexandria in the Old Port. Chloe Rinaldi, CBC News, Montreal.
Our weather specialist, Raleigh Lachuk, joins us once again. We're talking about the snow that we have down. So many people are anxious to get out there and cross-country ski or
yeah.
Will the mild conditions, you think, affect the snowpack?
We do have a decent snowpack in parts of the province, so probably not too much. I know that some of the trails in Riding Mountain National Park are open already as well. We can take a look at what our snowpack looks like right now, and really across Western Canada, across most of Manitoba, in fact, we are under a pretty decent amount of snow already for this time of the year. Northern Manitoba especially, look at this is the amount of snow that's on the ground right now in terms of snow depth, that's snowpack. So around 40 centimeters already on the ground in Thompson, approaching 30 in Flin Flon, and especially around the parklands, the Duck and Riding Mountains. Some good cross-country skiing in that part of the province already, given just how much snow we have. But, we don't have a lot of snow into southwestern Manitoba, still lacking, and unfortunately not a lot of snow on the way for the southwestern part of the province. The snow is going to be coming to the southeastern part of Manitoba into northwestern Ontario. Not a lot to see on the big picture either. Pretty sunny skies across Alberta today. A little bit of cloud cover, a little bit of flurry activity through Saskatchewan. Temperatures pretty comfortable today as well, in the minus single digits, minus 13 in Edmonton. Remember yesterday we were seeing temperatures around minus 30 in northern Manitoba. Not today. We did see that warm up finally through parts of the north. Here in our neck of the woods, minus 3 in Winnipeg at the moment and in Morris. These temperatures are above seasonal for this time of the year by about 5 degrees or so at this point. Minus 10s up the western edge of Manitoba, minus 16 in Swan River at the moment. And into northern Manitoba, still fairly comfortable temperatures as well. Again, what a difference 24 hours makes. We were in the minus 30s in Lynn Lake and Thompson and Churchill last night, now in the minus teens. This hour, minus 12 in Thompson at the moment, minus 13 in Gillam. So your overnight forecast, we're expecting some snow to start to move through northwestern Ontario this evening. Minus 6s, minus 7s, periods of light snow this evening. Periods of light snow through the southeast. More organized snow through Pinawa down into the White Shell, where we could see 2 centimeters of snow this evening. Minus 4s, minus 3s otherwise, with a chance of flurries. Can't rule out that risk of freezing drizzle this evening as well. Slim chance of flurries. I put that in for Brandon. Very slim chance of flurries that far west. Otherwise, though, fairly cloudy skies, maybe some clear breaks early this evening, -17 in Swan River and into northern Manitoba. Chance of some light snow through Thompson and Norway House over toward northeastern Manitoba. We are going to see some light snow through northeastern Manitoba still tomorrow. Temperatures up around the freezing mark through Gillam and Island Lake, -3s and -2s. -11s, some sunny breaks through Flin Flon and the Pas tomorrow. Down into southwestern Manitoba, we are expecting fairly cloudy skies, maybe some afternoon sunny breaks, -5 in Dauphin, -6 in Brandon. Approaching that freezing mark through south central Manitoba and into the southeastern part of the province. A fairly cloudy day tomorrow, not a lot of sun to be had. Could see some sunny breaks in the afternoon again, though, right around that freezing mark. Could see some lingering flurries still through Pinawa. Another 2 to 4 centimeters coming through northwestern Ontario. Not a lot of sunshine in your 7-day forecast. I'll have that at the end of the show, Janet.
Thank you, Riley. Still ahead, amidst growing calls to change hockey culture and make it less toxic, we'll hear what some players have to say about the sport they love. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Well, we're well into December now, just weeks away from this year's World Juniors Hockey Tournament, which this year will be hosted jointly by Halifax and Moncton. Now, this is something a lot of hockey fans usually look forward to, a joyful holiday tradition for many. But this year, it's being overshadowed by a Hockey Canada scandal involving allegations of sexual abuse and the fact that the organization used registration fees to pay off complainants. For months now, there have been growing calls to change the toxic culture that some say makes elite players feel they can get away with anything on or off the ice. We've heard a lot of people talk about junior hockey players, but CBC's Karen Pauls went to the locker rooms and the players' lounges to talk with them. Here's some of what they told her.
Do you get your 50-50? Yep.
There you go. One for you. Enjoy the game.
Boys, hey, play fast. Let's put in the work here for 60 minutes. Hey, fellas?
Across Canada, at arenas like this one, hockey players are pursuing their NHL dreams. But they're doing it under a growing Hockey Canada cloud amidst calls to change that toxic culture. We want to find out what hockey players have to say about this, so we're going to go talk to some of them on their off day.
Travis Hensrud, Davis Fry, and Captain Dawson Milliken have agreed to talk to me at a difficult time about a sensitive topic.
It's, eyes on you, right?
Yeah, sure. Everyone knows everyone.
The Hockey Canada scandal overshadowing this season.
So my name's Brock McGillis. I was a hockey player.
The Manitoba Junior Hockey League hired an inclusivity advocate to tackle part of what many have described as a toxic hockey culture.
If the language I heard made me, self-harm and try to die, imagine the impact that the language has or the bullying has on somebody who doesn't have all that I had going on.
We watched parts of Brock McGillis's presentation together.
Before you know it, it keeps spreading. Your entire team starts using it. All your friends start using it because you are influencers.
How hard would it be for someone on a team like that to be able to push back and say, you know what, this is not right. We shouldn't be doing this.
It takes a lot of guts for a guy to stand up, but when you do, that your voice is loud and other people will follow with what you say. It usually takes that one guy to speak up and create that culture of, listen, we're not going to do that. This is not how our organization acts or how we act as individuals in our communities.
Do you think that the locker room has changed at all?
Over the years, it's definitely changed a lot, just with everything going on. I think when I was younger, there was obviously more of people didn't really care what they said. And now, I think that we're older and know the consequences.
Yeah, we have very high standards, and that's I think it's good for everyone. Everyone has a goal to reach, just to become a better person and individual every day, on and off the ice.
Guys hold each other accountable for what they do say, and you got to just come into a room and just treat everyone how you want to be treated, basically.
In the dressing room and in the community.
It's your turn. Is that your serve or mine?
The Pistons have pledged to do 1,500 hours of community service this season, from sports with seniors to helping out at the local food bank. A way of giving back.
We'll come here in December and do like food hampers for the food drive.
But also getting players outside their insular hockey bubble, pushing them out of their comfort zones.
If this doesn't get corrected, we're not going to get here.
Head coach and GM Paul Dick is a busy guy, but he also took time from hockey to speak with us about the scandals and the added pressure on his players.
I'd just read a quote from the Minister of Sport. She said, "A re-envisioned Hockey Canada must develop not only exceptional athletes, but also good citizens who respect women, the public, and the law." What are you doing here to achieve that goal?
Yeah, well, I think respect is huge. When we have our initial meetings at the beginning of the season, it's a word that comes up a lot. You know, having respect for one another in this room, first and foremost, and then for people in our community of different, you know, age and genders and race.
There are Canadians out there that are kind of judgy right now about what's happening with junior players. They're pointing fingers. They're saying, you know, these are entitled young men who think they can get away with anything they want. They're treating women badly. They're treating minorities badly.
It's not a reflection of everybody in this game. We're in this community of 18 to 20,000 people, or whatever the size of Steinbach is now, and our players are well known in this community. They're very visible.
Eyes on them.
Yeah. There's no anonymity here in a small community. We have a tremendous fan base. So with that, there's a responsibility for our players.
And when they leave here to play in those big tournaments that they all hope to play in and that you've coached in, whose responsibility is it at that point to make sure that they're behaving and that they're good ambassadors for the sport and not hurting somebody?
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, the players should obviously, you'd hope they'd make good choices. But yet, to me, the staff in those at that environment is, and it, you know, for us in 2015 at the World Junior A Championships, our team won the gold medal, and after the fact, we knew there was going to be a celebration, but we also gave them parameter on what this tonight was going to look like for them, and you know, who was going to be involved. We're in a community we do not know anyone. This should be a players-only event, and where we checked in every so often. So, you know, the players, yes, they're 17, 18, 19, and you expect them to make good decisions and make the right ones, but that's a collaborative effort.
Who do you think, you know, is responsible for changing the toxic parts of the hockey culture? Because that's come under a lot of spotlight lately.
Yeah, well, I think everybody needs to play a part in that role. I mean, one, it's parents, and sometimes athletes have been not held accountable for their actions, and that starts at home often. But in younger coaches as well, and sometimes the better players, when they say things, well, there's not accountability because he might score 3 goals for us that night, and they can't be given any special treatment, in my opinion.
Hey, yo, good job. Way to go, Anthony.
Across the country, hockey is grappling with the challenges.
Blue line center and then the far blue line.
Okay, and hold same side and then go.
Ian Devlin understands it's everyone's responsibility. It's one reason he mentors younger hockey players.
There you go, finish strong here, last one, hey, last one.
Devlin is the captain of the BC Hockey League's Coquitlam Express. He wants to be a good role model to kids coming up through the system.
You need a certain level of maturity to be able to deal with some of those heavier conversations, but I'd say for sure by the years of, you know, maybe 13, 14, as hockey really starts to ramp up and, you know, kids start to get more intense, you know, parents start to get more intense, the whole hockey world seems to really start, you know, closing in on you. They really need to forge, you know, a solid set of values and beliefs by that age, because by the time you get to junior hockey when you're 16 years old and you're playing on a team with, you know, some kids who are 20, some kids live across the country from you, it's just an entirely different dynamic. Exactly, right? It's a learning curve for sure.
Still, Devlin knows accountability and change starts at home.
I think it just starts with looking in the mirror and doing the best you can every day, both to be the best hockey player and the best person ultimately that you can be, and then going out from there.
In order to be a good teammate, to be a good player, to be a good human being is following all these things, whether it be your
Telly Campbell has seen the ugly side of hockey from the bench as a coach.
And the entitlement and you know, kind of the wrong things that were happening, the disrespect that some of the players would have for, you know, fans in the stands.
Now, as one of the youngest GMs in the BCHL, he's tackling that from the front office.
It really is like having 23 kids every single day. You know, you're always trying to manage the on-ice part, you're trying to manage their academics, because a lot of them are still in high school or getting ready for university. You're managing them being away from home, so a lot of homesickness. And you're managing a 16, 17-year-old who's going through a maturity piece too, right? And they're just trying to learn themselves as well through this whole process.
And they can be used for
learning through talks like this one.
I think you have more influence on Canadian culture than NHL players. You're in every community in Manitoba. Adults worship you the same way as they do NHL players. So do little kids.
Do you feel pressured by that, or how does that make you feel?
I think it's a good pressure to have. I mean, you see all little kids, and it's kind of the first time I experienced like big fan base and all the kids like ask for autographs after the game, and it's kind of put a shift on my view of things, and knowing that like all these little kids look up to you and they pretty much think you're the NHL and you're their hometown team.
I used to love my junior team. They're my heroes. I saw them being kind and doing good things. I would most likely pick up on that and be like, hey, those are my heroes. I want to do good things.
Hometown team, hometown heroes. The pressure of influence, for bad and for good. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Steinbach, Manitoba.
Ah, heroes. Your daily lift tonight is one of super heroic proportions. A local story you do not want to miss. Still ahead tonight. We'll also have your 7-day forecast, so stay with us. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News.
My name is Jim Agapito, and my grandma was going off to the Philippines. Before she left, she looked at me and she said, Jim, what are you gonna do when you know nothing about the language and culture? You are a bad Filipino. She doesn't actually think that I'm a bad Filipino. Well, maybe she does, because the only things I know about are the swears in Tagalog and, well, karaoke. Who doesn't love karaoke? Come with me on this adventure where I learn about the culture.
Your 7-day forecast looks like this. Some sunny breaks to the afternoon tomorrow. Risk of freezing drizzle, especially Winnipeg and eastward into the Whiteshell through the night tonight into the early part of tomorrow. -3 for Sunday under cloud cover. More cloud on the way for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, part of Thursday as well. Clearing skies. And then the light at the end of the tunnel is that mix of sun and cloud, and -9 for Friday. So, very special delivery today for children who are in the hospital.
This is a beautiful, beautiful story. They received superhero quilts made by quilters from all across our province. Here is your daily lift.
So I've got 21 superhero quilts. I'm Jocelyn Marchuk. I'm delivering some superhero quilts to the Children's Hospital for Kids in Cancer Care. I put out a challenge to my quilting friends the beginning of October. Some of them have soft, cuddly backing, some have a cotton backing. I asked if they would create the top and supply the backing of the superhero quilt. I would supply the batting that goes on the inside. I would quilt them for them and bind them and deliver them here to the Children's Hospital. This is a fun one. The lady actually went and bought a real pair of leggings and used those leggings to create the pants on this little girl. I'm actually a pattern tester, and when the test for this quilt came out, I saw it and I thought, wow, this would be such a great idea to make multiples of them and give them to kids in care over the holidays when they can't be at home with their family. Yeah, this one is a special one. So when the child is sitting on the chair or laying in the bed, their head pokes out the top and they become the superhero. It was in 2019 and COVID and everything hit, and you just couldn't give the donations then like you can now. And so this year I just decided, nope, we're doing it. So let's see how many people will join the cause. And I knew I couldn't make a ton myself, but put it out to my friends, and there we had it. Each one of these has a card inside. In the card it says who created the quilt, who quilted the quilt, and where they live. We put a card just encouraging them to find joy and hoping that they will get strength and be wrapped in warmth from the superhero quilts that we've given them, and we just want to wish them joy over the holidays. We've had some families recently that had children with cancer, and our whole community was affected, right? Because as soon as it hits children, it just seems so awful. So I just wanted to do something kind for them, and hope that the rest of the world would maybe be inspired to do something kind as well.
Isn't that wonderful?
Lovely. I know one of those came all the way from Arizona, I believe, as well.
One of the quilts.
So far away.
That's beautiful, right? Just lovely. Riley, it's been lovely having you here with us.
Thanks for having me. John is back on Monday. So.
Yes, he is, back from his 3 weeks off, so good for him. He'll be well rested.
Absolutely.
But it's been just wonderful having you cover.
It's been a lot of fun being on this show.
Well, we'll see you again. He'll still be doing late night, too.
We'll see you at 11.
Yeah. Good night. Have a great weekend.